You know that feeling when you see someone living your absolute dream life. Well, meet Garrett Mitchell, better known as Cletus McFarland, a guy who turned goofing around with cars into a $10 million empire that'll make your jaw drop. Most people think YouTubers just sit in their bedrooms making videos, but Cletus owns an entire racetrack, has over 150 cars scattered across his property, flies helicopters for fun, and somehow managed to go from nearly broke law student to millionaire motorsports mogul. And the craziest part? It all started with a $5 Walmart t-shirt and a joke that went viral. Let's dive into how this Nebraska farm kid built one of the most insane automotive lifestyles on the planet. Garrett Mitchell wasn't born into money or racing royalty. Growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, his dad ran a mobile car detailing business and owned a taxi company with a fleet of Crown Victoria police interceptors. While other kids were playing video games, young Garrett was spending weekends moving Crown Vics around parking lots, and honestly, that probably explains his current obsession with collecting them. Nebraska has this unique law where you can get your driver's license at 14, so Garrett got behind the wheel early. His first car was a beat-up Chevrolet Trailblazer with nearly 250,000 miles on it. Not exactly glamorous, but it was his ticket to freedom and the beginning of what would become an automotive addiction. After cycling through a few different rides, a 4Runner, a Ram pickup, and eventually a Subaru STI, Garrett's life took a dramatic turn during what seemed like just another boring summer day in 2011. Picture this, you're cruising down the streets of Omaha in your Subaru, minding your own business, when some guy in a Mazda Speed 3 pulls up next to you at a red light and wants to race. Most people would probably just ignore it. But Garrett said yes to that challenge, and it completely altered his life trajectory. The guy in the Mazda turned out to be Chase Lautenbach, and after their impromptu street race, Chase invited Garrett to a weekly car meet at a local Sonic drive-in. Now remember, this was 2011. YouTube was still relatively new, and the idea of making money from car videos seemed absolutely ridiculous to most people. At that Sonic meet, Garrett met Kyle Loftus, the owner of something called 1320 Video. Kyle was already filming street races and posting them online, which seemed like the coolest thing imaginable to a college kid who'd never even been to a proper car meet before. What started as just hanging out with the 1320 Video crew soon turned into a job opportunity. Garrett began managing their social media accounts for a whopping $100 a week. He was posting content, writing articles, and basically learning the entire digital marketing game from the ground up. It wasn't much money, but for someone passionate about cars, getting paid anything to be around racing seemed like hitting the lottery. Fast forward to July 2015, Garrett is working for 1320 Video, going to law school in Florida, and trying to balance everything while traveling to racing events. The crew heads out to Colorado for something called Rocky Mountain Race Week, a drag and drive event where race cars have to actually drive themselves from track to track. On day 4 of the event, they're hanging out at a hotel in Pueblo, Colorado, when Garrett spots Tom Bailey's famous 6 Seconds Camaro parked outside. Now, Garrett had always been the goofy guy behind the camera, never really the star of any videos, but something made him grab this cheap Chevy t-shirt he'd just bought at Walmart, rip the sleeves off, and decide to film a joke video. He told Kyle to call him Dale McFarland for the bit, but Kyle improvised and said Cletus McFarland instead. What happened next was pure magic, or at least what passes for magic in the internet age. Garrett, now Cletus, did this over-the-top redneck character bit, claiming the Camaro was his 3,000 horsepower beast and going on about loving America and big block Chevrolets. It was completely ridiculous, but somehow absolutely perfect. Kyle stayed up all night editing the video and posted it on 1320 Video's Facebook page. Within 12 hours, it had nearly 1 million views on Facebook and 30,000 on YouTube. Garrett woke up to his phone exploding with notifications, and even his mom calling to ask what the heck he'd just put on the internet. That single video created the Cletus McFarland character, and within a month, 1,320 Video had made their first Cletus t-shirt. But here's the thing, Garrett still didn't realize he was sitting on a gold mine. For the next couple years, Garrett kept making occasional Cletus videos while juggling law school and his 1320 video responsibilities. He was paying $36,000 per semester for law school with student loans. making maybe a few $1,000s here and there from the character videos, and honestly wondering if any of this was sustainable. The breaking point came during a constitutional law class when the professor just put on a movie instead of teaching. Garrett had driven all night from a racing event to make it to class, only to sit there watching some random film he could have seen at home for free. That same day, he watched a Gary Vaynerchuk motivational video that basically said to stop listening to everyone else's expectations and chase your own dreams. So Garrett called his parents, told them he was dropping out of law school to pursue the Cletus thing full-time, and surprisingly, they supported the decision. Looking back, it was an absolutely insane gamble. He was walking away from a potential law career to bet everything on a comedy character and some car videos. But sometimes, the craziest decisions turn out to be the smartest ones. Going full-time on YouTube in 2017 wasn't the instant success story you might imagine. Garrett and his buddy Cooper were making videos in driveways, getting absolutely roasted in the comments section, and barely scraping together enough views to pay rent. Garrett calls this period the gauntlet because the hate was so intense. People would say the most brutal things imaginable about his videos, his personality, everything. There were nights when he'd lie awake wondering if he'd made a massive mistake leaving law school for this. But then something shifted. He had a viral hit with a video about exhaust whistles on his C7 Corvette, and slowly but surely, the positive comments started outweighing the negative ones. The subscriber count climbed past the critical 100,000 mark, and suddenly, making car content felt like a real business instead of just an expensive hobby. What really put Cletus on the map, though, was a beat-up Corvette he bought off eBay for $5,000. Leroy isn't your typical Corvette. It's a C5 with no body panels, just an exoskeleton cage, and when Garrett first bought it, the thing was basically a rolling disaster. He'd show up to drag racing events and the car would fail spectacularly. Throttle bodies would close mid-run, parachutes would deploy in the water box, and other racers basically saw him as the class clown. The transformation happened when Garrett connected with Kevin Smith from KSR Performance and got help installing a Holley Dominator engine management system. Suddenly, this joke car became a legitimate racing machine. Leroy went from being the laughingstock of drag racing events to setting records and winning trophies. Garrett describes it as going from the clown of the town to a guy you had to watch out for. And honestly, that pretty much sums up his entire career trajectory. The car has won multiple World Cup Finals events, set various speed records, and became the perfect symbol of the Cletus brand, taking something that looks ridiculous and making it absolutely dominant. Now, when I say Cletus has a car collection, I'm not talking about a nice garage with a few project cars. This man has over 150 vehicles scattered across his Florida property, and most of them are Ford Crown Victorias. Remember those Crown Vics from his dad's taxi business? Well, apparently that childhood experience created a lifelong obsession. Garrett has Crown Vics in every color imaginable, with spray-painted racing liveries, some missing doors, some completely crushed, and at least one that used to deliver pizzas for Papa John's. He's got Crown Vic police interceptors just for fun, one converted into a side-by-side transporter with air ride that's too top-heavy to actually use, and honestly, so many Crown Vics that he spends 6 minutes in one video just walking through them, saying that's a Crown Vic over and over again. But the Crown Vic army is just the beginning. The property also houses school buses with custom paint jobs, a John Deere tractor, a Food Factory truck, a Summit racing van, a Mountain Dew jet boat that apparently has a raccoon living in it, a Papa John's forklift that's holding a suspended Chevy Spark, and even a hot dog stand. Oh, and there's also a Porsche GT2 RS that he's leasing for $1 because he won some kind of bet. The lease runs until April 20th, 26, which might be the greatest bet victory in automotive history. The whole collection is like if someone gave a car-obsessed kid unlimited money and told them to go nuts at a used car lot. It's completely insane, totally impractical, and absolutely perfect for someone whose brand is built around automotive chaos. But owning 150-plus cars wasn't enough for Cletus. In 2020, he decided to buy an entire abandoned racetrack. The DeSoto Speedway in Bradenton, Florida had been sitting empty for years, just collecting weeds and decay. Garrett had been racing at the nearby Bradenton Motorsports Park and kept wondering who owned that creepy abandoned track across the way. So he bought it for $2.2 million. This wasn't some casual real estate investment. Garrett literally put every dollar he had into purchasing this track. He was carrying a $177,000 monthly mortgage payment and barely had enough income to cover his payroll. He describes those first few months as some of the most stressful of his life, lying awake every night wondering if he'd made a catastrophic mistake. But the gamble paid off. He renamed it the Freedom Factory, turned it into a content creation venue and event hosting location, and now the track actually runs itself as a profitable business. It's become the central hub for some of the most entertaining automotive content on YouTube, from Crown Vic races to school bus demolition derbies. And because one piece of massive real estate apparently wasn't enough, in 2024, Garrett bought a small airport in Mayaca City, Florida for $3.5 million. Yes, an actual airport with a runway and everything. His plan is to integrate it into his automotive business and create even more insane content possibilities.